console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to episode 33 of On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee. My co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And today we're going to talk about the Thunderbolt, Part A. Because this bad boy has a whole lot of models, and we figured each of them deserve a lot of love because they're real nice and we love them. So we're going to split this up into a couple parts and make sure everybody gets the attention they deserve. So, the Thunderbolt. By the end of the 25th century, the Capellan Confederation found itself to be the last among equals, as they had battlemech technology but lacked a diversity of designs, and their infrastructure was struggling to keep up with the growing demands. Enter Victor Resden, CEO of Earthworks, who convinced Chancellor Hendrik Liao not only that his company could rise to the task of developing a new and original battlemech, as to date they had only been contracted and subcontracted to produce mechs developed by other organizations. As part of the negotiations, Victor was able to convince the Chancellor to remove or lessen several bureaucratic safeguards set up by Chancellor Jasmine Liao to prevent hidden or subversive factions from solidifying a grip on power. By assuring Hendrik that the increased production would be worth the risk, he was able to secure the contract, and one notable effect of the deal, Kanyeva Design Bureau, would be absorbed into Earthworks. Both in concept and on the field, the Thunderbolt is a powerful design that historians consider, despite being debated to this day, that the Thunderbolt can be considered the first effective multi-role mech for defense and offense. With the Thunderbolt's success and adoption by the Capellans and other nations, Earthworks expanded its production lines to export to other houses. The Free World League was a happy and hungry customer.
I mean, it is a great mech.
There's a reason it's stuck around and is a hallmark of the battlefield.
You do not trifle with a Thunderbolt. If you trifle with a Thunderbolt, it will punch you into the ground and turn you into paste.
Yep, it's a beefy boy with a mean swing.
Watch out for that left hook.
Yep. So the first is the TDR-1C. This prototype was quickly developed and exceeded the benchmark set for it in 2491. This unit would see deployment, but few remain by the end of the Age of War, as they were replaced due to minor engineering issues and metallurgic defects. This guy has a movement profile of 3.5, an LRM-15 in the right torso, an SRM-2 in the right torso, 3 medium lasers in the left torso, 1 large laser in the right arm, and 2 machine guns in the left arm. It's got 10 single heat sinks, and I really love the art for this guy. It looks so good. It's got that, bulky, not quite modular, but there is a clear stepping or sections of the construction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If mechs participated in the Mr. Universe contest, this Thunderbolt 1C is the perfect epitome of that. That he's got that V-shaped torso going on, the big arms, the muscly legs.
Yeah.
He's basically got pecs.
Those shoulders.
Yeah.
This guy's like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of mechs.
He's got shoulders for days.
Yeah.
Those shoulders are larger than the Capellan Confederation.
Build me a mech that can touch one border and the other border at the same time.
They got pretty close.
This guy just looks really good. I understand why the later designs had more of a sleek, flat surface, obviously, because for production that would streamline things, but I kind of wish that this art stuck around. It looks so nice.
Yeah, and so from a practical standpoint, in many ways, this guy has too many weapons. You look at practical combat vehicle design, and humanity has discovered that specialized units are the most effective.
Mm-hmm. But
the Battletech universe, we throw that out. And
I believe you refer to it as the rule of cool.
Yes. And this Thunderbolt is pretty much the epitome of exactly what you want in a multi-role, rule of cool, take all comers mech.
Yeah. Like, it's got a close range weapon systems for dealing with infantry or any sort of vehicle, can easily deal with anyone entrenched because it uses the explosives as opposed to the energy-based weapons. It's got those 3 medium lasers for the medium range. It's got the large laser and the LRM-15 for long range. Like, it can bracket fire quite effectively, and that's what you're going to need to do so you don't overheat.
Those 10 heat sinks are...
You don't just have that bracket firing capability in game terms. In practical terms, you've got dual machine guns and 2 different missile launchers, allowing you to engage enemy infantry with high explosive from multiple ranges, plus the machine guns. So you're effective at supporting friendly infantry against enemy infantry. But then you've got that large laser to act as your main cannon against other mechs and tanks. 3 medium lasers to help you deal with multitude of thinner-skinned vehicles. And then your LRMs are such a big rack, you can engage effectively at long range with that as well against mechs and vehicles. So this guy just does it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can't love about this guy.
It does everything.
I mean, aside from the fact that it's got primitive tech.
I mean, for a first mech...
Oh, it's great for a first mech, and the primitive tech will quickly disappear. So...
Yeah, I mean, for what, this is the Capellan's second mech technically after the Firebee?
That would be correct.
This thing is a absolute beast and pretty much blows everyone else's second mech out of the water.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, the only mech I can think of within the first 2 mechs that any of the other nations have produced that can handle the Thunderbolt is the Mackie.
Yeah.
And it's got 35 tons on it.
How far in is the Orion? I forget.
The
It's like 4th or 5th. That's really the Thunderbolt's peer on the battlefield. Is the
Yeah, that is really the role it is filling and shining in, and destroying the other benchmarks. And yeah, the Orion is very much a good comparison because they're the same weight, they do the same things.
No.
Or sorry, no.
The Orion is 10 tons heavier.
The Orion's 75, correct. I apologize. Slipped my mind there. But yeah, the drop from the AC to the missile system and the large laser, I think, really helps keep that weapon damage profile, but drops the tonnage a little bit.
Yeah, it's really all in that AC-10 to large laser, because they both have the large LRM rack.
Mm-hmm.
They both have decent-sized SRM racks, or smaller scale SRMs.
Yeah, and if memory serves, this guy can handle infantry a lot more efficiently than the Orion did.
Yeah. So
he's got a battle value of 1237 and a point value of 33. And after that, we come to the 5S, produced in 2505, and since has been produced effectively by every government. This unit is so robust and reliable, only 2 variants have appeared in any real number. Of course, with the weapons layout, heat can be an issue. This guy has a movement profile of 4-6, an SRM-2 in the right torso, LRM-15 in the right torso, 3 medium lasers in the left torso, a large laser in the right arm, and 2 machine guns in the left arm. And as we continue to talk about, this 65-ton mech has a really good weapons layout for its tonnage.
I mean, the 5S has the exact same weapons and weapon layout as the 1C. Your main difference is by going from primitive to standard tech, you bump up the movement profile from 3.5 to 4.6.
And they also add another 5 heat sinks, which is very useful.
Yeah, the 1C is a toasty boy.
This is the quintessential heavy mech. 65 tons, 4.6 movement profile, lots of weapons, solidly armored.
And of course we have the Succession War era art now, which loses that sort of modular stepping design into more of a sleeker plate, and it works. It still looks great. I do enjoy the little 3 ports of the medium lasers sticking out of the left torso.
Well, and the original art is, for this 5S, is actually some of the unseen stuff, which has the missile launcher art on the left torso instead of the right torso.
Yeah, and the cockpit's on the right torso, essentially.
I was about to say, certain Phoenix project art has the missile launcher and cockpit just swapping places. classes.
Great mech. The Thunderbolt chassis is one of my favorites in the Battletech universe. It looks good. It's so versatile.
Yeah, and it's got enough armor plating that it can hold up to a heavy firefight, which is something that I enjoy doing.
There is one nasty habit that all the Thunderbolts have is sticking explodable ammo in the center torso, which
that's...
I don't know which of you have tried to design mechs, but I highly discourage this. That's a good way to get your mech blown up.
Yeah, step 1, take ammo out of center torso.
I've never really had a problem with that, but I think that's because I've always played with the floating crits rule, so you're not guaranteed to hit center torso with your crits. So when I'm designing them, it doesn't really matter where the ammo goes. There's always going to be a chance to hit it.
Well, whenever I'm digging into any game system and swapping out weapons and stuff, I always try to keep the ammo right beside the weapon system, because feed belts, I mean, just out of habit, I'm like, I want that feed belt to be as short as possible if we're going to be practical about this.
Yeah. Quick tip for those of you who are playing HBS and keep running into Thunderbolts. Get a Gauss rifle, shoot it in the center torso. You have a decent chance of killing it outright immediately because you'll pen it, hit the ammo, and it'll all go up in a giant mushroom cloud.
Well, this guy has a battle value of 1335 and a point value of 36. And after that, we have a note. We have the TDR-5SB2. I was unable to find any reference of this model in historical Operation Klondike, and that's where Master Unit List says it's from. So most likely this is a database or listing error. It says it came out in 2680, which is before the 5SB, so again, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
But since we're talking about the SBs, let's just transition right over to the actual mech we have some information on. The TDR-5SB. This guy was produced in 2753. We see the Royal variant, and as always, it has the cool new toys, endosteel case, and double heat sinks. It adds a small laser to the head, upgrades the LRM-15 to a Artemis 4, upgrades the SRMs to streaks, adds a ERPBC to the right arm in place of that large laser, and then has 2 small pulse lasers in the left arm to replace the machine guns. It's got 14 double heat sinks and a movement profile of 4.6.
This is a solid mech.
I'm not seeing any small laser in the head.
On the SB, I have the record sheet.
Yeah.
And it's listed there.
Okay. I've got 2 small pulses, ER, 3 mediums, LRM-15, streak 2.
Interesting. Well, I pulled this guy from record sheets 3085. So, interesting.
Huh? Either way, it's a very minor.
'Tis true.
I mean, really, the SB solves all the problems I've had with the other Thunderbolts. It ditches the machine guns for small pulses, so you don't have that pesky machine gun ammo to blow up on you. It upgrades the LRM-15 to Artemis because, we needed it to be a little bit more deadly. It does get you a streak 2, which I'm not sure how I feel about it, seeing as you already have 50 shots of streak ammo for 1 ton. I'm not sure if that was really worth it.
They probably just wanted to put the streak fancy new toy in as opposed to bumping it up to a 4.
That's true. This is the Royals. They're just fancy toy, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got the ERPPC for all of the mean times to anyone near or far.
No, as with all Royal variants, this thing is awesome and has all the bells and whistles, and you just look at it and you want to play with it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the record sheet from Operation Klondike, and it's got a small laser in the head.
Huh.
Yes, that must be where I pulled it from.
Where are you looking at it, Chandler?
Mega Mech.
Okay.
Interesting.
I wish they had their source listed for not having a small laser, because that could be the SB2. And if they have a source for it, then maybe we could track it down. Because the SB2 does have a PV listed of 40.
Yeah, that is true. But it doesn't have a battle value.
Yeah, which makes me think it's listed in some sort of Alpha Strike supplement.
I will say that the Sarna entry for the SB also does not mention a small laser in the head, but it also makes no mention of an SB2.
That is quite perplexing. We'll have to send our research staff into the archives to dig it out. The SB has a battle value of 1613 and a point value of 41.
I just have to say I disagree on the SB and the machine guns. I prefer the machine guns. You're building extra heat.
Yeah, I mean, crunch in the game, the pulse lasers do pretty much the same thing to infantry, and you're reducing your risk of detonating. I mean, yeah, you're generating more heat, but if you're firing on infantry, you're probably not firing like the ERPPC, which means you're probably going to be heat neutral.
Split targeting.
Yeah.
True, but like if you got infantry standing next to you and you got a mech in the distance, which one are you going to focus on as a pilot? You're going to be boring your eyes into that other mech because that's your biggest threat usually. There's a couple asterisks.
If I've got machine guns, I can throw heat-free shots onto the infantry as well as a secondary target.
True, but you got to split your attention.
Well, after that lovely royal variant, we have the 5D. As is tradition, our Davian model has an AC, but they decided to go big and give it an AC 20. This was accomplished by cutting the rest of the short-range weapons out, first seen on the battlefield in 2821. So it's got a movement profile of 4.6, an AC 20 in the right torso, and a LRM 10 in the left torso. It's got 14 heat sinks, and yeah, that's what it does.
Single AC 20.
I really want to like it. Because it's got an AC 20.
And it's got
This
10
is
shots.
me, AC 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so non-versatile for its tonnage. Like, if I wanted something so one-dimensional, I'd take a hunchback. And I'd rather take a hunchback almost, just because you get the jump jets.
Yeah, jump jets is almost a broken mechanic in Battletech.
Then later, the one I would pilot if I was doing...
Hunchback doesn't have jump jets.
My original ride for the Hunchback does, but that's the 5S, and that's well past the 5D's introduction. That's clan era, practically. I really want to like it, but I feel like the LRM-10 is the thing that dissuades me the most. I feel like if it was like a large laser, I'd like it more, but I mean, it's limited by the technology at the time. It's a succession wars. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a good time to be designing new mechs.
So it's got a battle value of 1231 and a point value of 35. And next up we have the 5SE, a unit-wide redesign for the Eridani light horses, formalized in 2910. This unit is intended as a raiding and recon unit. To aid in this, it adds jump jets installed at the cost of the machine guns. So it's got a movement of 464, 3 medium lasers, an LRM-10, and a large laser, 17 heat sinks. And I mean, jump jets are great. We've mentioned many a time how versatile they are. I don't see this being a lightning raid mech, but I could see this being a raid in force, grab the stuff from the warehouse and walk it back to your dropship sort of mech.
Yeah, and the jump jets give it a lot of versatility in a rough environment. So like, let's say you're invading a planet with a lot of hills or mountains. It gives you some more mobility options for getting over obstacles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does make me sad to see the anti-infantry firepower go away, but the jump jets really are nice. They're not enough jump jets, though. I mean, you're sacrificing your SRM-2, 5 tubes off your LRM, and both your machine guns to get 4 jump. And at 4 jump, you're still giving yourself a bigger penalty than you're giving the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
So...
You got to remember, improved jump jets aren't a thing yet with this mech.
I know.
You know. They haven't been invented yet.
I know.
And I feel like it's more of a utility option than you're using this to be crunch better than your opponent. It's hey, you need to get over that wall without having to walk all the way around. You know, jump over it.
Yeah, the jump jets are to bypass fortifications more than they are to get around from A to B.
Yeah, I just... Why 4 then, you know? Save a ton, keep that anti-infantry capability, and go with 3. 4-6-3. I mean, yeah, I don't know, like... I love jump jets normally, but this just isn't quite enough to hit my threshold.
Yeah, that's fair. The jump capability is useful but underwhelming.
Personally, I've never been a huge fan of improved jump jets. I get why they're good, but I've always seen jumping as a utility option rather than I'm going to use this because it's better option.
And I mean, that's if the game handled jumping capability better, more like how Alpha Strike handles movement, it definitely becomes a utility thing. But with the way jumping is designed in classic Battletech, jumping bypasses an entire phase of the game, and that's what makes it so good.
Yeah. So this guy's got a battle value of 1414 and a point value of 35. And it is followed by the 5SS, produced by House Steiner in 2930. This unit shifts the weapon system, but maintains an overall equal level of firepower. It's got the 4-6 movement profile, a flamer in the right torso to deal with that pesky infantry, 3 medium lasers in the left torso, an SRM-6 in the left torso, and a PPC in the right arm. And it's got 21 heat sinks, so it can deal with that heat quite efficiently. I like it. It can effectively engage at most ranges. Obviously, it wants to get in close, but not too close, because that PPC has a minimum range of 3. It's neat. I like it. It works. This is your bread and butter, militia or mixed arms unit mech. It's great.
Yeah, I think this one is really good for supporting friendly infantry. He's not as flexible in terms of long range firepower, but when you're dealing with enemy infantry or dug in tanks, this guy really feels like more of a close assault kind of mech with that SRM-6 and flamer.
So this Steiner production has a battle value of 13 to 37 and a point value of 35.
Are we skipping the 5L and 5LS?
What?
Both from History, Second Secession War.
They are not on master unit list. Can you give us a quick breakdown of them?
Yeah. So 5L, introduced in 2823, is essentially a toned back version of the 5SB. It replaces the ER PPC with an ER large laser, and pretty much other than that, it's the same mech. Does get ditch a heat sink as well, though, so it does lose a little bit of the heat capacity that the 5SB but has. All in all, your average Star League era high-end mech, just in Liao flavor.
There you go.
And then you've got the 5LS, introduced in 2850, which is almost the same thing, except it ditches the Artemis 4 off of the LRM-15 to... What does it trade that tonnage for? Oh, and it switches back to single heat sinks and goes up to 15 heat sinks. So that's what it uses that tonnage for. And then also drops down to a regular SRM2 instead of the street.
Sounds like a solid design.
So the Thunderbolt 5L has a battle value of 1546, and the 5LS has a battle value of 1374. Surprising how much the battle value can drop if you're ditching some of the fancy tech.
It's quite noticeable at times, especially if it's stealth armor.
Yeah, Sarna says it drops even further to 1305.
Might be a rebalance.
Liao are up to their shenanigans again.
It's probably just a misinterpretation from battle value 1 to battle value 2.
So the next one on the master unit list we have is the 5ST. This is the personal mech of the Bremen DMM commander, Lieutenant General Mary Tallman, during the Third Succession War, and it's strips out everything except the large laser and the medium lasers to add another 5 medium lasers. So it's got 4 in the right torso, 4 in the left torso, and 1 large laser. So really kind of just doubling down on that energy, keeps the movement profile, but it upgrades to 23 heat sinks, which is good considering if you're alpha striking with this guy, you've got 32 heat.
Yeah, and for those who don't know what the Bremen DMM is, I believe it stands for Draconis March Militia.
That is correct. Yeah, so this guy you really want to get in close, get those medium lasers, which are for tonnage, probably the best weapon in the entire game, heat-wise and damage-wise, and yeah, seems useful. Definitely a mech-on-mech fighter.
Yeah, I mean, with the sheer amount of medium laser this thing has, it can deal with pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a medium laser for each guy in the squad.
Yeah.
It's got a medium laser for each guy in 2 opposing lances.
Yeah, the pilot might be drunk, but he's got enough medium lasers to compensate. It's fine.
Yeah, she hosts discos on her off hours.
So it's got a battle value of 1447 and a point value of 37. And our last one for today's episode is going to be the 7M. Earthworks unveiled this model that uses the rediscovered Star League tech in 3049. Notable tech additions include the Pharaoh, double heatsink, and case. And this guy is just like all the others, keeps that pretty similar weapons loadout, LRM-15 in the right torso, 3 medium lasers in the left torso, Streak SRM-2 in the left torso, ER large laser in the right arm, so that's a bit of an upgrade, and 2 machine guns in the right arm. It's got 15 double heat sinks, so heat is not going to be a problem with this guy.
This 7M is basically a modern-ish clan era modern version of the 2B, but instead of the ERPPC, it has an ER large laser, and it does not have Artemis on its LRM-15.
But it's also got that other art, which has the cockpit kind of as a triangular or, like a dish protrusion off a very blocky torso, which is adorable. It's got its charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a leader in the re-scene arts.
Captain Derpy. But I like this one. We talked earlier about how I prefer the machine guns over the small lasers, and this guy keeps those. ER large laser actually has better range than an ERPPC, I believe. So it matches up with the LRM-15 a little bit better. LRM-15 not having Artemis is kind of sad, but overall, this is a pretty solid version. I like it a lot. And it doesn't use an XL engine, so a little more survivability.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting that the Free Worlds League ended up not opting to put Artemis 4 on it, seeing as they had reintroduced Artemis 4 by 3049, but
yeah,
probably just either a tonnage issue or a supply issue. Figured they'd probably put it on more dedicated missile mechs.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you fit the tonnage for it on. Dropping the SRM-2 from Streak.
Get rid of the machine guns.
Well,
you know me, get rid of the machine guns.
So I think what I would do is drop the MG ammo from 1 ton to a half ton, and the Streak SRM-2 to a standard SRM-2, and that frees up the 1 ton you need to make the LRM-15 Artemis.
But it could just be a supply chain thing, right?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been out for 14 years at this point, pretty much. So very possibly a supply issue.
So it's got a battle value of 1495 and a point value of 39. And our next segment, of course, is pilot profiles. Our first pilot we're talking about today is Captain Dashing John McAllister. He is the commander of the Eridani Light Horse 41st Support Company, nicknamed historically the Ass Extractors. McAllister styles himself as a classic cavalry officer from Terra's pre-spaceflight era, when in operations on Felined 2, the light horses were abandoned due to a bureaucratic mistake. When the CO ordered the units to retreat off-world, McAllister and his unit fought a fierce rearguard action, setting multiple ambushes, delaying tactics, and artillery kill zones to ensure the rest of the light horses escaped. McAllister did not make it to the dropship and the landing zone, as his Thunderbolt Taljos... Yeah, I don't speak French. I'm a bad Canadian that way. Anyway, it translates to always daring, and it was shot out from him and he was captured. He would be released in 3040 and rejoin his mercenary unit.
He has 26 kills of his own.
That is quite impressive.
Don't mess with that man.
All right, so our second pre-clan invasion mech warrior for the Thunderbolt is Claire Sarton. She's part of Keniston's Assault Lance of House Liao's 7th St. Ives Armored Cavalry. She's rather young to have achieved a reputation among mech warriors, and most of her fame comes from the 4th and final battle of Oasis 326 on the desert planet Daniels. Naming oases like hills were named in certain Terran battles.
Mm-hmm.
During the Battle of Oasis 326, she single-handedly disabled 5 enemy mechs in 5 minutes. Yeah, apparently they silhouetted themselves as they charged over a dune directly towards her.
Seems like a bad move.
Rookie move.
Yeah. Her speed and dexterity at the controls of her Thunderbolt, the Wild One, was the main reason that the Davian attackers were forced to withdraw. However, where there are some Davians, there are always more Davians, and the Davian forces were eventually reinforced, and the 7th St. Ives Armored Cavalry were forced to retreat. So
can't win them all, even if you win all the battles, right?
Yeah. That must have been Fourth Succession War, one of the planets that Hans Davian was giving to Melissa Steiner as a wedding gift.
Or it could have possibly been the Third Succession War, because if the St. Ives, wouldn't they have split off?
Possible, but the St. Ives split off as part of the Fourth Succession War.
Yeah.
It's unclear.
So to me, it's especially since she's in a the original TRO 3025, which was a lot of Fourth Succession War stuff. I expect the 7th St. Ives Armored Cavalry were still part of House Liao's military at that point.
Yeah, and it's likely that there were several St. Ives units that did not seed with the St. Ives Compact.
Yeah.
Well, our next segment, of course, is the data dive, and we're going to throw over to Chandler for some more Liao history this week.
Welcome back, folks. Yet again, we are going to talk about our favorite of the great houses. There's no smile on my face right now.
Yeah, we're going to get hate mail for that one.
Yeah. So last we left off, the Age of War had just begun with the First Andurian War between the Capellan Confederation and the Free Worlds League. So that starts in 2398 and ends in 2404, so a relatively short 6 years. And the whole point of this fight was to determine which of the two nations would control the Duchy of Andurian, which sits on the border between the Free Worlds League and the Capellan Confederation. Originally, the Capellans and the Free Worlds League would be relatively on par with each other, but after the Battle of Kwamashu, I'm probably butchering that entirely, and some political finagling within the Free Worlds League, the current Captain General of the Free Worlds League, Peter Merrick, went on a blitzkrieg into the center of the Capellan Confederation, which the Capellans were unable to stop at all, and he invaded all the way up to Cyan and Capella, and unable to stop him and being defeated, the Chancellor at the time, Alicia Liao, sued for peace, and the terms of the treaty meant that the Andurian worlds would become part of the Free Worlds League for 10 years, after which the people would determine who ruled the systems. Normally, I would get into the Free Worlds League political shenanigans, but seeing as that will probably be covered in this section of the Free Worlds League history, I am going to not get involved in it, because there is 2 more Andurian wars to cover, along with the Ares Convention and the Thousand World Coalition. So, moving on. In 2412, the forces of the Free Worlds League underneath Peter Merrick yet again decide to kick in the Capellan's door on the world of Tintavel. This quickly bogged down into a horrible slog with thousands dead and lots of weapons of mass destruction used. Nukes, biological weapons, you name it, they used it. In the end, both forces withdrew and the planet is completely abandoned.
That sounds like something that wouldn't happen under the Ares conventions.
Yes, and that's true. Weirdly enough, looking at later Capellan history, the Chancellor at the time, still Alicia Liao, was so appalled at this that she began to push for a set of rules to govern war, which eventually ended up being the Ares Convention. And the Ares Convention in itself can be its own episode, which we will cover at the time. Notably, there are 2 representatives that did not sign, the Katorian Concordat and the United Hindu Collective, one of which will become very important shortly. And by shortly, I mean in 2418, so a mere 6 years after the Ares Convention was signed, the Capellan Confederation attacked the Taurian Concordat and threw the Ares Convention out the window. And their legal justification was, since the Taurian Concordat had not signed the Ares Convention, they didn't have to uphold its rules against the Taurian Concordat. And so
I'm no
it turned into
political scholar, but I don't think that's how treaties work.
Yeah, a lot of people at the time said that as well, I'm sure. But at least the Capellans this time are kind of holding to the letter of the law in some weird way. They're like, well, they didn't sign it, so we'll do it. And they gave everyone thumbs up, and since it was the periphery, the Understeer didn't care.
As is tradition.
And all the Taurian Concordat fans in the background were screaming and shaking their fists at me.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's true that the Inner Sphere generally does not care about the periphery. Is it fair? No. Is it right? No. Is it true? Yes.
And another turn that the Capellans are going to be quickly known for, 5 years later in 2423, the Chancellor that had started the invasion, Arden Baxter, not a Liao, immediately shifted focus, stopped the invasion, and offered a treaty called the Thousand Worlds Coalition, which was essentially a Capellan plot to isolate the Free Worlds League by joining the forces of the Duchy Andurian, the Taurian Concordat, and the Periphery Worlds, which would eventually form the Magistracy of Canopus, in a block to isolate the Free Worlds League and keep them down. This was essentially foiled by the Taurian Concordat, as their protector at the time did not trust the Capellans at all, which, seeing as they were just in a war for 5 years, not a bad choice on his part.
Not trust
However,
Capellans?
this did... yeah, not trust the Capellans? Good idea. Now I got all the Capellan fans shaking their fists at me. However, this did stop the war, and they essentially entered into a very frosty peace where neither really acted against each other in any large manner. With this being the Age of War, I'm sure there was little minor border skirmishes, but nothing to the scale of the invasion that the Capellans had just inflicted upon the Concordat. And back to our number convention for this episode. Shortly after, 20 years after to be exact, in 2528, the Second Andurian War kicks off between the Free Worlds League and the Capellan Confederation yet again. This time, it's a lot stupider of a reason, in my opinion. Essentially, during a state visit in 2518, I guess he'd be the heir to the chancellorship, Calvin Liao, was introduced to the daughter of the Duke of Andurian and pretty much fell head over heels. He bombarded the Duke of Andurian with marriage proposals after he rose to the post of Chancellor in 2520. And then 8 years later, he decided, since his prospective father-in-law wasn't answering his, I'm assuming, multiple messages a day, he decided that conquering the Duchy of Andurian would definitely get him his wife that he wanted. And in addition, this is the kicker, he executed his 26 wives for treason. So definitely starting to see that nice thread of insanity through the Liao family that gets picked up by Maximilian Liao and kind of by Daoshin Liao during the lead up to the Il Clan era.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a interesting courtship.
We're not crazy. We're just crazy.
Yes. This turned into just a massive war with the current Captain General of the Free Worlds League, Albert Merrick, trying to counter the Capellan assault with flanking actions and effectively turned the entire border region between the Capellan Confederation and the Free Worlds League into a massive death ball, with both countries just throwing everything they had at each other. Of course, according to the Ares Convention, because that's a thing now. With Calvin's assassination in 2530, peace was proposed, and underneath the meditation of Deborah Cameron from the Terran Hegemony, of course, stepping in and being the big brother of all of the successor houses, they signed a peace treaty called the Treaty of New Delos in the summer of 2531. It essentially reestablished the status quo from the first Andurian War, so literally nothing has happened legally. However, there was a slight asterisk which allowed the Andurians the possibility of leaving the Free Worlds League, and then it also resolved a couple of other border disputes between the Free Worlds League and the Capellan Confederation, and the Capellan Confederation ended up being saddled with a large amount of war reparations, because having an insane chancellor attacking a other part of space just because he wants to marry someone tends to not be seen by the galactic community as a good reason for war.
No, not very justifiable.
Yeah. It's like something out of a pop culture song.
Oh, yeah, doesn't it? The Liao family is pop culture, let's be real. And Calvin was, of course, succeeded by Micah Liao, who was the one who signed all of the treaties and probably had to apologize quite a bit to everyone for her family members' insanity.
After she had him assassinated.
It doesn't say who assassinated him, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was someone within the Capellan Confederation. I'm not sure if it would have been a Liao. Maybe. I mean, seeing how later Liao family squabbles went, it's very possible, but it's not known. So, yet again, 20 years after the Second Andurian War, we have the Third Andurian War with our two best friends forever, the Free Worlds League and the Capellan Confederation. Yet again, shooting each other over the same spot of space. The reason this one started happened was in 2551, Terence Liao ascended to the throne and the chancellorship, and in his attempt to win the love of the Capellan people, the admiration and respect of all of his interstellar state neighbors, he decided to, of course, do strongman politics and invade the Duchy of Endurian, because what better way to signal that he can do things than to solve that problem? Yet again, the war erupts along the front between the Capellan Confederation and the Free Worlds League. One interesting note, it is the same Captain General from the second Endurian War, so he is now 73 years old, still leading from the front. He's a we'll talk about him when we do the Free Worlds League side of this. Yet again, the war goes very poorly for the Capellan Confederation, and after 5 years, the conflict threatened to escalate, and I'm not sure what it means by escalate, but I'm assuming mass bombardment, warships, and general nuke tossing, knowing the Innersphere. Negotiations began under the meditation of Ian Cameron. Yet again, Terran Hegemony stepping in, being the big brother on the block for everyone. And the very notable outcome of this peace treaty, known as the Treaty of Geneva, it would pave the way for the Star League, with both the Free Worlds League and the Capellan Confederation being the first signatories. In addition to this, with the Treaty of Geneva, there'd also be the Endurian Peace Treaty, which, I mean, I'm going to give it up for Terence Liao. He did end up getting Endurian for the Capellan Confederation, so he at least did what he set out for.
For a limited time, anyway.
Yes, for a limited time offer. Endurian Peace Treaty. Get yourself an Endurian for the Capellan Confederation. That is where we are going to stop today, with the formation of the Star League and the future of the Innersphere and the Capellan Confederation looking very bright. What could possibly go wrong now that we have a nice multinational government starting to come into form?
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, Primitives Volume 3, TRO and RS, Succession Wars, Historical Operation Klondike, Record Sheets Operation Klondike, Historical Turning Point Galtor, and Record Sheets 3085, Project Phoenix Unabridged.
I've got Era Digest Age of War, Handbook House Liao, Handbook House Merrick, Historical The Reunification War, House Liao, the Capellan Confederation, House Merrick, the Free Worlds League, the Star League, and also the Periphery Sourcebook.
We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, mechwarriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
This is the kicker. He executed his 26 wives for treason.